Hello everyone, welcome to session 3. So in this session we are going to discussing about metabolism. Yes, dear students, we know about metabolism is one of the important property of living organisms. Metabolism is the all biochemical reaction taking place inside the living system. All the biochemical reaction taking place inside the living system. So this is called metabolism. So we know about examples for metabolism, digestion and respiration. Here, removal of carbon dioxide from amino acid to form amine. And removal of amino group in a nucleotide base. Example 2. And hydrolysis of glycosidic bond. So these are all examples for metabolism. Yes. See, the process of metabolism takes place by some organic compounds. So these organic compounds are called metabolites. Yes, the metabolism process takes place by some organic compounds. So these organic compounds are called metabolites. Yes, metabolites are the organic compounds. Okay, see, there are two types of metabolites. One is primary metabolites and secondary metabolites. Yes, the primary metabolites, these metabolites have identifiable function in physiological process, and these metabolites are necessary for life. Okay, an example for primary metabolites: amino acids, sugars, lipids, vitamins, nucleic acids. Secondary metabolites are these metabolites are not involved in growth, development and reproduction. Okay, so yes, the metabolites are two types. One is primary metabolites. Yes, what is primary metabolites? So these metabolites have identifiable function. Yes, have identifiable function in physiological process. And these metabolites are necessary for life. So example for primary metabolites: amino acids, sugars, lipids, vitamins, nucleic acid. Yes, these are all examples for primary metabolites and necessary for physiological process and life. The next one is secondary metabolites. Yes. See, secondary metabolites or the metabolites, these metabolites are not directly involved in growth, development and reproduction. Yes, secondary metabolites or the metabolites are not directly involved in involved in growth, development and reproduction There are so many examples for secondary metabolites like pigments, alkaloids, terpenoids, essential oils and toxins and polymeric substance and lectins. So many examples for secondary metabolites. Now list the examples for secondary metabolites. See, there are so many examples for secondary metabolites like pigments, alkaloids, morphines, terpenes, toxins, drugs, lectins, essential oils and polymeric substances. Let's list one by one. Pigments. Yes. Example for pigments: anthocyanin and carotenoids. Yes. The second one is alkalides. Example for alkalides: morphine and codeine. Yes. The third one is terpenoids. Example for terpenoids: monoterpenes and diterpenes. Yes. The fourth one is essential oil. Example for essential oils: lemongrass oil. Yes. And the fifth one is toxins. Example for toxins: abrin and resin. The next one is lectins. Example for lectins: concanavalin, A. Next one is drugs. Yes. Example for drugs: vinblastine and curcumin. The next one is polymeric substance. Example for polymeric substance: gums, cellulose and rubber. Yes. These are all examples for secondary metabolites: pigments, alkaloids, terpenoids, essential oils, toxins, lectins, drugs, polymeric substance. These are all about secondary metabolites. Yes, the next one is metabolic pathways. Yes, dear students, already know about metabolism is the process or biochemical reaction taking place inside the living system, and metabolites are the organic compounds. See, in metabolism, there is a series of linked multi-step chemical reaction, which means it's like automobiles traffic in a city, like that. Okay, a series of linked multi-step chemical reaction takes place in metabolism process. So this is called metabolic pathway. A series of linked multi-step chemical reaction. So this is called metabolic pathway. See, I already said about metabolic pathway is similar to automobile traffic in a city. See, in metabolism process, the flow of metabolites through metabolic pathway, it has a definite rate and direction. So this is called dynamic state of body constituents. The flow of metabolites through metabolic pathway has definite rate and direction. So this is called dynamic state of body constituents. So these are all about metabolic pathways. There are two types of metabolic pathways. One is anabolic pathway and catabolic pathway. It's also called anabolism and catabolism. Yes, anabolism or anabolic pathway. There are two types of pathways, metabolic pathways. One is anabolic pathway and catabolic pathway or catabolism. Anabolism and catabolism. Yes, anabolism, here the simple molecules forms complex structure, hence it is called constructive process. But here in catabolism, the complex molecules are break down to form simple molecules, hence it is called destructive process. Okay, so anabolism, in anabolism process, the simple molecule forms complex structure. So hence it is called constructive process. In catabolism, the complex molecules break down to form simple molecules. So hence it is called destructive process. Okay. Number 2, the anabolism process, it consumes energy because of construction of complex molecules, and catabolism process, it releases the energy. Yes, the anabolism, it consumes the energy. In catabolic process, it releases the energy. Example for anabolism: formation of acetic acid from cholesterol, and assembly of amino acid in proteins and photosynthesis process. So these are all examples for anabolism. And examples for catabolism: formation of lactic acid from glucose in glycolysis and respiration. So these are all about the differences between both anabolism and catabolism. The next concept is the living state. Yes, in organisms, the metabolites present in different concentration present in different concentration. So, the living system cannot perform a work at equilibrium. See, as a living organisms work continuously, it cannot reach equilibrium, which means the living state is a non-equilibrium steady state to be able to perform work. No living, there is no metabolism. This is all about the living state. The next concept is enzymes. Yes, dear students, we know about enzymes. All enzymes are proteins, but all proteins are not enzymes. See, these enzymes are specific, which means each enzyme has its own substrate. Even ribozymes, the nucleic acid, ribosomes, nucleic acid, that is RNA, behaves like enzymes, and the enzymes forms tertiary structure with pocket. The pocket is called active site. The pocket is called active site, which is fit to the substrate molecules. And there are so many enzymes. One of the fastest enzyme that is called carbonic anhydrase. In the presence of this enzyme, the carbon dioxide and water forms carbonic acid. This much of molecules in per second. In the presence of carbonic anhydrase. In the absence of carbonic anhydrase, the combination of carbon dioxide and H2O form carbonic acid, that is 200 molecules per second. These are all about enzymes. The next concept is nature of enzyme action is also called catalytic cycle. See here, the enzyme acts with the substrate like a lock and key model action. So, this lock and key model enzyme action include some steps. The first step is the substrates binds the active site of enzymes. Yes, so this is the active site of enzymes. So, this induces some changes in enzymes so that the substrate bound the active site of enzyme tightly to form enzyme substrate complex. The next step is the active site of enzymes breaks the chemical bonds of substrate to form enzyme product complex, that is EP. And finally, the enzymes release products and free enzymes which is ready to bind substrate molecules. These are all about lock and key model actions. Yes, the lock and key model action, the first step is the substrate bind the active site of enzymes. This induces some changes in enzymes so that the substrate bind the active site of enzymes tightly. So, this is called enzyme substrate complex. Then the active sites breaks down the chemical bonds of substrate to form enzyme product complex. Finally, the enzymes release product and free enzymes. These enzymes are ready to bind other substrate molecules. The next concept is how do enzymes speed up a chemical reaction. It's also called concept of activation energy. Concept of activation energy. Yes, activation energy is an additional energy that required to start a chemical reactions in an exothermic reaction or endothermic reaction. Exothermic, which means it is the process release the energy in the form of heat or light. Endothermic reaction, here it absorbs the energy from surroundings to form a product. Say in an exothermic reaction or endothermic reactions, the substrate has to go through much higher energy state. So, this is called transition state. Yes, the activation energy is a difference between average energy of a substrate and transition state energy. Yes, in this graph we can observe the product is obtained activation energy with enzymes and without enzymes. Yes, if the product P is a lower energy level than the substrate, then the reaction is exothermic reaction. Exothermic reaction is also called spontaneous reaction. See, these reactions no need energy in order to form product. Yes, in biochemical reactions, the enzyme lower the activation energy. As a result, speed of the reaction increases. Yes, these are all about how the enzymes speed up the chemical reactions. It's also a concept of activation energy. Dear students, in this session we had discussed about metabolism and metabolites. Metabolites are the organic compounds and types of metabolites, primary metabolites with the examples and secondary metabolites with examples, and types of metabolic pathway, that is called anabolic pathway and catabolic pathway, and differences between these two and with examples, and the living state, and studied about enzymes and studied about nature of enzyme action, also called catalytic cycle and also called lock and key model action, and how do enzymes speed up the chemical reaction and the concept of activation energy. Thank you.